Hello ladies, this is Professor Fleming here. I'm going to give you some quick feedback on what you guys have done, and you've made a lot of progress. Congratulations. You probably still have a lot more to do, but at least you're getting into the game and getting a little closer to where you want to be. So the things I'm going to only try to point out things that are major that I think need to be added or taken away, and not really nitpick you guys because we're really at the end here. So a couple things that I want to point out to you. First off, you don't have to show the section lines on your plans because it gets confusing, no big deal. It seems to me that the library needs its own set of doors, and typically sometimes they do an airlock there, a sound lock. So that'll be something that you want to add there. You wouldn't want to walk around to that little tiny door there. And let's see. So I remember that you had some sort of seating or planting vegetated situation there. I think that would be something that could be very good, and this could be your biophilic lobby space where all kinds of great things happen. There could be benches in here, there could be places to sit. You've got to, I know you guys are just trying to get the building together, but you definitely want to get this thing looking like it's alive. But I think that you're overall a lot of good decisions here, and this is good. Very tight on the corner. Not a lot of space there, but I think at this point we're just going to let that go and leave that alone. I thought this was good here. That makes a lot of sense. I guess this looks pretty good. These are going to allow the site to open. Sorry, my template's not doing so well. That's going to be great. I think that's a great idea, which brings up what I'm going to talk about in a minute, which is what actually happens in here. That's got to be figured out. That all looks good. You do need a formal door here. If these are closed, there needs to be a way to get out for a fire, because otherwise that'll be a dead-end corridor. Same thing there. One thing you might want to think about is your rainwater is going to be, I think this roof slopes that way, so some of your rainwater is going to collect and go down that way. You need to think about that. And this is a flat roof that's going to collect some water. So one of the things we think about is how to collect rainwater for these bathrooms. So you might see like a giant cistern here that is used to collect water and then feeds back to the bathrooms. And if your building was further back, you could do it on outside on here, but you really don't have a lot of space, I think. I think that's a pullover lane that you've created. You might want to do some more work on that. I think in general your site's going to need a lot more work, and you've got 3 people, so somebody should get a meeting with Lois and tackle that. Because what actually happens in here, I mean, I see a giant oak tree or some element that creates this courtyard and makes it something really special. What I would also look at is I would have pathways, like paved areas along the edges, like this, and edges like that, okay? And then whatever material is here, I would put the same material there so that the inside and outside relationship is good. Then I would go ahead and make this all grass. And I would also think about stormwater collection at this end. Maybe there's a rain garden that maybe makes a rain garden here where water is kind of getting down into the ground. But mainly what I want to see is how you're making this edge here. You know, what is the architectural element, the landscape element that makes an edge here so that this becomes a really special place. Right now it just sort of bleeds out that way, and I think that really this is your most important room in the whole project. So one of you guys has to, maybe this is number 1, but I would say this is 1A, because this is where everybody looks to. So I think you need to do some work on that and try to figure out what you're going to do there. Might as well just put a closet there, because you're not going to use that corner. That seems pretty good. So I mean, again, still a lot of good work here. Oh, and the other big one is this stair is like a miniature stair. You need to make it much bolder, bigger. And that means these doors probably have to move down a little bit for the bottom of the stairs. But I would make these stairs much more of an object. And yeah, you see them as you come down the hallway. This way you do see the underside of those, and I get that. On the second floor, you know, here's where you really see the stairs are kind of small. So I think you really want to get that going there. And I thought you did a lot of good things here. The one problem you do have is you do have a dead-end corridor here. So typically there would be a fire stair or some other way. The other thing you could do is you could actually have an exterior stair. This is a landing, and then there's a stair that comes down that's actually outdoors. So people from the courtyard could just come right up and get to the second floor. Or maybe it goes this way. That's probably more logical. So if I have music class, I could just come up and get in there. So that makes sense to me. All of this looks like it makes a lot of sense. The science room looks great. All of this looks pretty good to me. This is your open to below, and you do have the same problem here. So what I would probably do is, instead of trying to get a fire stair in at this point, I would create these great set of stairs here. And if you wanted to, you can make those like an amphitheater set of stairs where, you know, kids could sit and look out onto somebody teaching, perhaps. Not quite sure about that, but really at this point you want the site to link up with the building, and then actually this set of stairs could go up to the green roof that's above here. So a lot of stuff to do on the outside of the building, but I think you guys finally wrestled this thing to the ground, and you got a pretty good plan here, so you should be pretty happy. Now, as far as the looks like you have a pretty decent Revit model going. Congratulations. It looks like there needs this height and this height needs some differentiation. So one thing I would do is start using some eye level perspectives. Don't make it all about looking at it from the air. If I do look at it from the air, I kind of want to begin to link up this and that as one sort of element, or maybe this slopes up that way, this is sloping up that way. Yeah, I think this needs to have a slope proof, so it's more in kinship with this as a form. And then, Nikki, we've talked about what you can do on the edges here. I really think you need to, somebody, either you or somebody in your team needs to think about how to define these edges, because people are going to be up here. Now, the stair thing is that I was telling you about would be right about there, right? And then you could have another set of stairs coming up that way. That's pretty cool. And then under here you could have your cistern and your water storage under here that could then feed those bathrooms. That'd be pretty slick, actually. And so you want to have a relationship between here and here as much as possible. So having this great outdoor stair, this could be itself, or this could be a sort of a tower, right, with a stair in it that brings people up and down. That's actually pretty cool. So what I'm looking for is, you guys have been so caught up in the pragmatics and been behind that now you have a chance, because you have a good base, to do some stuff with imagination. So as I was saying before, this line here is really critical to me. So, you know, where are the fences on the project? So you're going to have a fence around here, because this is a play area. So that fence is going to can have a certain character, and that fence could be the same kind of fencing that you have up here. So the site elements begin to unify the project across. Here I always imagined that you'd have a trellis or some sort of three-dimensional element that's grown, that has nature all over it, or vegetation, and creates a transition between this courtyard and the play area out here. This is also going to need some sort of fencing around it if kids are going to be out here. You know, and so now all of a sudden I feel safe playing in here. And I was talking about collecting rainwater here, and I do see a series of rain garden elements, bioswales, that find its way down into a habitat down here in this corner. One thing you definitely have working in your favor is you can begin to do, sorry about that, you can begin to look at plants and trees as definers of space. So this entire edge, you have a lot of space here. It can really be a habitat with your rain gardens all integrated into that habitat. So what ends up happening is, you know, this is all buffered. You've got a great buffer area here. I believe this is what this gray area is. So all of a sudden, you know, this thing becomes a little bit more private, a little bit more hospitable. Maybe you leave this a little bit more open so people can see through the fence, not sure. And then I was thinking that maybe there's an element that kind of creates a transition here so people can walk back and forth, but the site is begins to be broken up. Same thing here. You want to get a threshold between here and here, so maybe there's a piece of architecture here that literally creates a threshold between this space and this space. So there's a sense of discovery between here and here. So you've got really four, I would say four spaces, one up here separated by these rain garden elements, bioswales, so that's one. There's a space here which is more about habitat. Three, this is more of your urban space, your courtyard, and maybe there's some paving in part of this so that people don't always have to walk on grass. And maybe it's, you know, maybe that's paved also as a transition. And then you have this one. So you've got four distinct outdoor spaces that you can use as far as programming your outdoors. Looks like you have some drop off there, right? I think we talked about that's all a little tight, but that is what it is. So, you know, here's where you can really see the idea of this having its own sort of roof action that reflects this roof, and those two kind of relate together. And then I'm sort of thinking this part, I still want to see this come up higher than that with a clear story on that side and a little bit more glass to open that up. See, this is where an eye level perspective like this would be very helpful right here, so I could give you some more feedback on that. But if this goes up higher, maybe it starts at the height of this and slopes flat, and maybe this slopes up, I'm not sure. I think you're probably pretty tired of working on the roofs and all that. I have a feeling you guys spent a lot of time on that. Make sure you get this back down to its real height. It's very low. I'm glad to see the project in context. Definitely want to see some more eye level views of the building from the street, because I think that's the way it's really going to be expressed. And I see what you're doing here. I get that. That's great. And it looks like you're using a brick building, which is fine. Again, eye level from here would be really useful to see that and understand that. But really, I think the most of your work is here, 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 and here. I think, you know, yeah, you've got the building working pretty well. You know, we talked about having some sort of element here as a connector all the way up from the ground to the roof, and we talked about a big old oak tree. You know, maybe there's a couple giant, really big shade trees in this courtyard, and you could have class out there and such. It'd be pretty cool. And then the other thing is, I want you guys to talk to Rebecca, because your renderings there's too much shading on your renderings. Like right here it looks good, but I really can't see what's happening here very well. And so, and I think this should be all glass under here. This should be all glass, by the way, guys. The whole corner should be transparent. And this roof should be sort of tilted up, I think. Maybe like something like this. Like that, maybe. Or tilted more, I don't know. I don't want you to work on it too much more, but you definitely need more glass. You know, and then that roof can kind of come out like that. I think that would be just fantastic. And then we talked about another stair here. Maybe this one kind of comes down. Maybe this one is more like the classroom. So there's a set of steps that bring you up that you could sit on and watch a class. So somebody could stand right here. People could sit on those steps or just be casual. And then, of course, I really want you guys to look at this transition here. And then, of course, this whole edge has really got to be developed. And these are pretty quick things to develop, and I really would recommend that you meet with Lois and talk about these four. We talked about sort of a rain garden bioswale stepping down to a habitat here. We're not really doing ponds because we don't really want standing water on the site. So these are all percolating water down into the aquifer. So you got area 1 could have 1 character, 2, and I see this as more of the more habitat, and this one 3, and then 4 over here. Please don't forget to get your fences in, because I think that's going to give it more a sense of a real building. And okay, I'm going to stop now. I have to run.